What's up guys, we've got the nominations for the 2019 Game Awards, the video game equivalent of the Oscars. So I'm going to go through all of the awards, excluding the esports and the content creation ones because I don't know anything about them. And I'm going to give you my thoughts and predictions and opinions on each category as they come. First of all, let's talk about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order because that's not up for any award here, yet it was eligible. The reason it's not up is because it kind of came out just before the cut-off date. So chances are, most people who were nominating and voting for these awards didn't have a chance to play the game, even though it was technically eligible. So hopefully, it'll be up for awards next year because it is a Game of the Year contender, in my opinion, and it deserves some recognition. And here's hoping it will actually be eligible for some award consideration next year because it does deserve it, and it shouldn't really be getting screwed out of any of them. First up, we've got the nominees for Fresh Indie Game. And here are the nominees. or Z-A-U-M, I don't know how it's pronounced, for Disco Elysium. Nomada Studio for Grease, or Gris. Dead Toast Entertainment for My Friend Pedro. Mobius Digital for Outer Wilds. Megacrit for Slay the Spire. And House for Untitled Goose Game. So first up, Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium is getting rave reviews from people who've played it. Sadly, it's not getting major attention. It is, again, it's an indie game, so that's why it's not getting major attention, but also it's currently exclusive to PC. Chances are next year when it comes to consoles, if that's indeed going to happen like they say it's going to happen, it'll get much more recognition next year round. But I can't wait for it to come to consoles. This game looks great. Just a classic, good old RPG with a great setting and great characters, it seems. My vote in this category is going for The Outer Wilds. I think that game is really something special. I don't think it's like the Game of the Year. I think it should be considered the Game of the Year or something, but there is something really special about that game and I'm glad it's getting nominated here. That's what I'm voting for in this category. But then I think you also have to mention that Untitled Goose Game is kind of the indie game that's almost gone mainstream. People like Chrissy Teigen have been on Twitter talking about it and it's getting a lot of attention. People were dressing up as the goose at Halloween and so on. But I think when you actually look at the game itself, yeah, it's good, but I don't think it's great. And I think chances are a lot of the mainstream attention that it's been getting is going to overcloud it. People's perceptions on the game itself. I don't think it's going to win this category. Then we have Best Multiplayer Game. It should be noted now, I don't really play multiplayer games, so here we go. Apex Legends from Respawn and EA. Borderlands 3 from Gearbox and 2K. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Infinity Ward and Activision. Tetris 99 for Arika, Nintendo. Tom Clancy's The Division 2, Massive Entertainment, Ubisoft. So, I haven't played Borderlands 3, I've seen it, it's not my cup of tea. People seem to really like that game. I think it's got a real good chance here. Then there's Apex Legends, probably the big breakout hit this year. It uncrowned Fortnite as one of the biggest games of the year. Of course, Fortnite has since overtook it again and Apex has gone a little bit down in terms of the popularity of it. But Apex Legends, a great game. I did play that game. It's good and I like how it's getting the nomination here. I don't think it's going to win it though. Because it did have that one like couple of week moment where it was like everyone was raging about it. It's kind of subsided a little bit. Not that I think will cost it the win. Tetris 99, I thought that was a really innovative battle royale style game, just with Tetris. I thought it was really fun, really addictive. Personally, because of all these games in here not being my cup of tea, this would be the one that gets my nomination and my vote, but I don't think it's actually going to win this. I don't think it actually deserves it either, to be honest, even though I did like it. And while I was speaking about Fortnite, yeah, it didn't release this year, but it's an ongoing game. There is another category which Fortnite is eligible for because it's an ongoing game. Yeah, I feel like it should still also be eligible for this one because it's also still a multiplayer game. Just something of note. Now we have the Best Racing/Sports Game. Again, these aren't my cup of tea, not games I really play all that much, but I do know a thing or two about them. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled Edition. Beanox Activision. Dirt Rally 2.0 Codemasters. eFootball Pro Evolution Soccer 2020, PES Productions Konami, F1 2019 Codemasters, FIFA 20 EA Sports. So my vote would probably go to Crash Team Racing, but while it was received really well upon release, people liked it. It's Return to Crash Bandicoot, one of the best car racers ever. It was mired in controversy because of all the microtransactions and loot box stuff that was going on. I never actually played the game, so I don't really know the specifics of it, but I do remember that people liked the actual core gameplay, although it was challenging. And then there was the whole stuff behind the scenes with the loot boxes, which people did not like at all. I think that might affect its win here. FIFA 20 this year came out, got a bit more of a mixed reception than usual because I think people are clocking on now that it's kind of just the same game that was released last year. And that's what happens with annualized games, that usually you get like one that's really like up the game from the previous one, then the other one's just more or less the same, and they keep doing that. It really incremental updates and differences and changes don't really make for a great sequel, and I think that's what's happened with FIFA. That could affect it, although FIFA is still incredibly popular, especially here in Europe. Sadly, I don't really know enough about this category, about all these games, to say much more than that. Obviously, I know people like Pro Evolution Soccer, I know people like FIFA and Crash Team Racing and so on, but I can't sit here and stand here and say, hey, this is the best one, this is the one that's going to win. Best Strategy Game: Age of Wonders Planetfall, Anno 1800, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Total War Three Kingdoms, Tropico 6, and Wargroove. So again, not my type of games. You're probably wondering now in this video, what are my type of games? It seems I don't like any games at all. No, my type of games are coming up soon, just you wait. But I remember Wargroove being really well liked upon release, so maybe that's got something, I don't know. Best Family Game: Luigi's Mansion 3, Ring Fit Adventure, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Yoshi's Crafted World. So you might as well call this category the Nintendo category, or the Nintendo Consolation Prize category, because every game here is a Nintendo game. That being said, Super Mario Maker 2 I thought was a great game, great campaign, all the additional Maker stuff in there which I never really touched too much of. It's an endless Mario game, so that has to be given that some sort of really good chance. That being said, is it a family game? Yeah, it's got multiplayer aspects, but again, it's challenging and it's tough. It's really kind of single player focused for the most part, so I think it's odd how it's in this category. And then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, cut off last year because of its late release. That's why it's in this category this year. I haven't played Luigi's Mansion 3 yet. It's on my list of things to get to eventually. I am going to play it, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'm hearing really good things about that. Some people saying it could be a Game of the Year contender, although it's not up for Game of the Year. So I think that'll win. I'm not going to say it's getting my vote, but I think it's going to get this category. Now we have Best Fighting Game: Dead or Alive 6, Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So I think this is very easy between Mortal Kombat 11 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Those games, people love them. Fighting games not my cup of tea, so I'm not going to put my own vote in here, but I think you might end up seeing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate getting the nomination here. Bizarrely, some people don't even consider Super Smash Bros. Ultimate a fighting game. I don't know what else it could possibly be, but there is an audience out there that thinks, no, it's not a fighting game. Yeah, weird. Best RPG: Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, The Outer Worlds. I've heard a lot of great things about Disco Elysium, like I said earlier. As a pure RPG, I think that might get the win here. However, Outer Worlds has gotten a lot of praise, a lot of attention. People are really liking that game. Personally, I think it's a little overrated. I played about 10 hours of it, and it's perfectly fine. I think that's going to win this category though. I would give it to Disco Elysium, even though I haven't played that game, but that game looks brilliant. It looks like a full-on true RPG, the sort of RPG I would like to give a go. But it's not on consoles yet, and I don't have a good enough PC to play it. Best Action Adventure Game. Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2 Remake, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This is a really tough one. I think Control is going to edge this one out and get the win. Sekiro, I think if Sekiro had came out a little later in the year, it would have been getting a lot more attention, it would have been standing up more. But as it is, because it came out quite early in the year, people are seemingly forgetting about it a little bit. I do think it's got a chance here, but I think some of the later games that have came out might overshadow it a bit. And Death Stranding, because it's so divisive, because some people love it, some people hate it, and then there's a lot of people in the middle. I think the votes are going to go out to the other games because people aren't going to be able to decide on Death Stranding. Then you've got Zelda in this category. I understand why it's in this category, action adventure, but it's also an RPG. I haven't played Link's Awakening, that's another game that's still on my list of things to get to. I am going to get to it eventually. I'm playing other things at the minute. But yeah, I thought that was an RPG. Maybe this is a less RPG Zelda game than what we're used to, I don't know. But yeah, odd how it's in this category, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. There's also Resident Evil 2 Remake, one of my personal games of the year. I think that's going to get it in another category. I don't think it's going to win this one. Best Action Game. So we've just had Action Adventure, now it's Action. So what's the difference? Well, I think Action Adventure is much more almost like story driven, whereas Action is like shooters and beat 'em ups and really much more engaged in the gameplay side of things. Not that the previous ones weren't, but this one has a bit more of an emphasis on that, I think. Again, they don't really categorize these categories all that well. What defines an action, what defines an action adventure game, but kind of just making assumptions here for the most part. Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, Metro Exodus. So my vote, straight away going for Gears 5. One of my games of the year, I thought it was a really good game. I think it starts and ends really well in the fact that it's much more traditional Gears, and then everything in the middle is Gears trying to do something different, working really well, great. Open world-ish areas, vehicles, the core combat is really unique and brilliant in my opinion. I would give it this category, and I think it should have got way more attention this year at the awards. I think it's quite shocking that this is kind of the only category it's been nominated for. There is another one for performance that we're going to get to soon. No nomination for Katana Zero though. I think that's bizarre. Katana Zero, again, one of my games of the year. Really good, fast-paced action game. Yeah, you could argue there's an action-adventure element, so it should have been in the last category maybe. But really fun, really addictive, really fast-paced, really exciting, good visuals, good story, cyberpunky kind of setting. I would have gave it a nomination either in this or the last category, at the least. Apex Legends and Astral Chain have really good followings and strong, ardent supporters. I think it's got a good chance here. It could get some votes because maybe they're going to be split a bit. I don't know. Devil May Cry 5 though is in the same boat. It has a really strong fan base and really good followers. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up winning this category. A little surprising to see Metro Exodus here. Not a bad game by any means, but I wouldn't exactly put it in the same league as some of these other ones. Best VR/AR game. Asgard's Wrath, Blood and Truth, Beat Saber, No Man's Sky, Trover Saves the Universe. So I remember when Blood and Truth came out, Blood and Truth got a lot of rave reviews. People were really surprised by how good that game was. They said it had a good story, great VR integration, lots of creativity. I think that might get the win here. Also, Beat Saber, did that release this year? It seems like that game is constantly just being released in different platforms and different versions. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think a lot of people really like that game. It's fun, it's addictive, it really gets your sweat on. But again, did it release this year? That might cost it a little, because I think it came out last year on different platforms. And then you got No Man's Sky, a little similar to Beat Saber in that it didn't release this year, but the VR component did. Does that really... Yeah, it's weird how that's gotten the category here, because yes, you can play the entire game in VR, but again, the game did come out a couple of years ago now. But yeah, I think No Man's Sky is a bit of a dark horse in this one because it has won people over with its re-release and with the updates, with the VR stuff. So maybe this could be them like giving No Man's Sky a little nod as, hey, you did it, you updated your game, you made it better, you made it great. Best mobile game. Call of Duty Mobile, Grindstone, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sky Children of Light, What the Golf. Plain and simple, Grindstone's gonna get this. It's fun, it's addictive, really colourful, great environments and locations, lots of variety in the gameplay, constantly ups the challenge, and it's one of them games where once you start playing, you really have to find the strength within you to put it down. It's really addictive at times. I would give it that. Now we have Best Independent Game. This is not to be confused with the Fresh Indie Game category that was mentioned earlier. The Fresh Indie Game, I'm assuming that means it's the first game they've made, or they're just new on the scene or new on the block or whatever. Whereas this, maybe they've been around a little longer. I'm hoping that's the categorization. Baba Is You, Disco Elysium, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, Untitled Goose Game. So I think I would have to give it to Outer Wilds. It's the game I played the most this year in this category, simply because it's also one of the longer ones. But something special about that game, the way that you just explore the universe and discover things at your own pace and so on. It's really a unique experience. I'm really glad to see Katana Zero getting the nomination. Yeah, again, I've talked about it, fun, it's really fast-paced and exciting stuff in there, great story. And Disco Elysium, I can't wait to play that game when it actually comes out on consoles. Then Untitled Goose Game, again, I mentioned that a little earlier. Is that really in the same league as some of these games? I know people like it, I'm not saying it's bad by any means, it's good, but I think a lot of the mainstream attention this game's getting has been clouding the actual reception and quality of the game a little bit. Best ongoing game. Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Mentioned earlier, Apex Legends uncrowned Fortnite, even if it was very brief. Will that give it the edge here? Will they have to say, you know what, Apex, it did something special, it beat Fortnite briefly, so let's give it the win here? I don't know. I do think in this category, Fortnite is the one to beat, because it is so popular, because it is so well liked, because some of the things they're doing to maintain the audience, to keep its popularity up, it's really just incredible how many people are still playing that game and how well liked that game still is. Games for Impact. What that means exactly? Again, a little unclear. I'm assuming it means there's some sort of thematic meaning in there, some sort of message in there. There's something a bit more than just a game that you play for fun and entertainment. Concrete Genie, Gris or Gris, Kind Words, Life is Strange 2, Sea of Solitude. Right out of the gate, I haven't played any of them. I have, however, heard of them all, and I do know about them all. What I know about Concrete Genie is people did generally like that game. It does look like a bit of a PS3 game though, I have to admit, graphically, but that's not the point. It's all about bullying, it's all about how you address and deal with bullying, and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. I think that's probably going to edge out here. Life is Strange 2, because of the episodic release, because of the stagnated release element of it, I think that's going to cost it. People haven't played every single episode of that game yet, and because it's got huge gaps in it, people aren't going to remember it or as well as they probably should have. So yeah, I'd give it to Concrete Genie. Best Performance. Ashly Burch as Parvati Holcomb in The Outer Worlds. Courtney Hope as Jessie Faden, Control. Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz, Gears 5. Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff, Death Stranding. Matthew Peretta as Dr. Caspar Darlin, Control. Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges, Death Stranding. This is a tough category full of really big names, both in video game voice acting, but also big Hollywood names as well, with Mads Mikkelsen there, and big TV names in Norman Reedus. I'm a little surprised Norman Reedus has been put in here. Not that he's a bad actor by any means, but it's like, he kind of pulls off the same performance in everything he does almost, with some little changes here and there. It should be noted, I haven't actually played Death Stranding yet, because I'm too busy playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So Death Stranding is my next game that I'm going to play, I would like to see Mads Mikkelsen get awards because I do really like that guy. I think he's a great actor. But again, I can't really say he's going to win because I don't really know what his performance is, although I have heard good things about it. And Laura Bailey was great in Gears 5. So, based on the games that I have played in this category, I would say Laura Bailey, it's a great performance. She's great in everything though. So, yeah, that's probably getting my vote. Best audio design. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Control, Death Stranding, Gears 5, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Resident Evil 2 had really good sound design, the use of the zombies in the distance, how you could hear Mr. X walking around. If you put headphones in, you could get like a spatial awareness kind of thing going on, so you could tell if he was upstairs or downstairs. Really impressive stuff in there. Call of Duty, not a game I've played this year, but I have heard about some of the things they went with in the sound design. The fact that they had different sounds for gunshots if you were like next to a wall or by a door, if there was some sort of echo going around, if you were in some sort of chamber, or if you were outside, or if the weather was somehow dampening it. The amount of different variations of different sounds they had in there, the amount of experimentation they had in there is really impressive, and it shows a huge attention to detail element in there, that game. I think that's probably the game to beat in terms of sound design this year. And just want to give a little shout out to Gears 5, the fact that every gun and weapon has its own unique sounds and functions and lots of good sound stuff in there. Best score / music. Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, Sayonara Wild Hearts. So Sayonara Wild Hearts, really fun, really catchy songs in there, really energetic, sort of music that you'd want to just wag your foot to. And I think that's going to get my vote. But what if you have a game that's been nominated in this category and there's only really one great song that elevates it? If I remember rightly, that's kind of the case with Devil May Cry 5. I haven't played the game, but I've heard that that's why this has been nominated. There's one really good song in there. The rest, not quite as much. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But that's what I've heard. So yeah, I think that might cost Devil May Cry 5. But if that song's really good, why can it win? I don't know. Also, no Katana Zero in here. The soundtrack to that game was really good. So yeah, I think that's been robbed a little bit here. Best art direction. Control, Death Stranding, Grease or Gris, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Let's talk about Death Stranding and why that's in here, because you might be thinking, well, what's really all that special about the art direction there? It's very realistic. Yes, well, firstly, it's a gorgeous game, so you've got to consider that. All the character models, the environments look brilliant. But I think the real reason this has been getting nominated here is because of all the little tech and the gadgets and the weapons and items and so on. The fact that it is science fiction and still grounded and somewhat believable. I think that's why it's getting the nomination here. It's really kind of an attention to detail sort of thing with Death Stranding. But Sayonara Wild Hearts, much more of like an artsy-fartsy visual game. Lots of bright colours and shapes and oblongs and so on. I think I would give that my vote. And while Legend of Zelda is a gorgeous game, great art design in there, I think the fact that it's a remake and that it is just making an older game prettier in many ways, that could cost it. Best Narrative. A Plague Tale: Innocence, Control, Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, The Outer Worlds. So again, I haven't played Death Stranding. I have heard mixed things about the narrative in there, so I think that's going to cost it. Disco Elysium, I've heard a lot of really good things about the narrative in that game. And it is an RPG, so there is an element of choose your own adventure kind of thing going on in there. And the story changes and alters depending on your choices. So that could edge it out in this category. No Outer Worlds. Yeah, the narrative presentation isn't typical in that game, in that you are kind of discovering things for yourself, and the story is kind of what you make of it. But once you get the mysteries and you link them all together, there's a big reveal. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but the way that the story reveals itself and the way that certain elements of the story are revealed and the big revelations are really quite impressive. So I'm surprised that hasn't got a nomination here. But ultimately, I think this is going to be one of them cases where people aren't going to agree on one game or the other. Because Death Stranding's in this category, I think people are going to vote for that. But then a lot of people are going to say, well, actually, the narrative wasn't great, so let's vote for something else. And I think ultimately, Control could end up winning because of that. Best Game Direction. Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Outer Wilds. Hideo Kojima is one of the greatest game directors ever, plain and simple. He's a masterpiece, he's a genius. Can't praise him enough. Regardless of what you think of Death Stranding, this is a Hideo Kojima game. You can tell it's a Hideo Kojima game. It's got his footprints all over it. The visuals, the narrative, unique design and look. It screams Hideo Kojima. And I think that's why you have to give him some consideration here, even if it hasn't quite worked out the way he intended or to the extent that he intended. I also think Resident Evil 2 Remake, the way in which it did remake Resident Evil 2, the fact that it's from the ground up, it changed the perspective, added elements, cut out elements, really refined and focused the story a bit more. I think that has to be considered because it has redefined what a video game remake can and will be going forward. It's not just giving it prettier graphics and making it look better. So here we are to the big one. Game of the Year. Control, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and The Outer Worlds. Again, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate missed the cutoff last year because of release. That's why it's in this year's category. I don't think it's going to win. Death Stranding, very divisive. I think that's going to cost it because there are some big games in here. Most people are going to direct their votes somewhere else because they can't quite decide on Death Stranding, I think. No Star Wars in this one because, again, they missed the cutoff date. Well, it didn't, but people probably didn't play it in time. No Outer Wilds, that's disappointing. No Katana Zero, that's disappointing. No Gears 5, that's really disappointing. So some big omissions this year, which I've got a problem with. I'm also a little surprised to see Outer Worlds get nominated here. Yeah, people are liking the game, people are really liking the game, but to me, I think it's a little overrated. I did like the game, I don't think it's bad, but I wouldn't exactly put it in this category with some of the other games here. I don't think it's on their level. It also, in my opinion, feels like a game that was released like a few years ago. Again, not bad. But I think it's between Control and Resident Evil 2 Remake. Resident Evil 2 Remake is still a game I think about, even though it came out like, what, February? It was a long time ago, and I still think about it. I still remember playing that game. I think it's a great game. And again, the way that it's redefined what a remake in video game form can be is something special. But Control, people love Control. I haven't played it yet. Again, it's on my long list of games that I need to get around to playing. I'm too busy playing other things at the minute. So Control, I think, has a really good chance. But Resident Evil 2 does get my vote. I did really like that game. It's also just worth mentioning how this year's games, in comparison to some previous Game of the Year categories, seem a little on the weaker side. There's no big blockbusters in the same wave like God of War or Spider-Man last year. There's no definitive, these are some of the best games ever made in this category. So maybe you could argue Resident Evil 2, but for the most part these are good/great games. They're just not amazing games, which is what we've been getting in some of the previous years. Just something to note. And that's the Game Awards. It happens December 12th, I think, maybe December 13th. So we'll see how right my predictions are and what happens. Of course, the Game Awards, it's a bit more than just giving out the awards. There's also the big reveals, the trailers, the announcements as well in there. It's as much of a press conference as it is an awards ceremony. So there's kind of something there for gamers of all shapes and sizes. And I can't wait. It's going to be an exciting event. Maybe we'll find out when the next Batman game comes out at long last. Maybe we'll find out whatever the hell Rocksteady's working on. But until then, subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. Give me a thumbs up, why not? Leave your comments and feedback down below. What's your Game of the Year? What are you thinking is going to win all these categories? Let me know down below. And of course, go to Twitter and Instagram at @the_GrantBurton. Follow me on there to get all my up-to-date thoughts and opinions on whatever's going on. And keep on gaming.